Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, you know, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios. Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Time for Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. Our last hour of the week here on CannabisRadio.com. Great to be back after that 2-week vacation I took. All sorts of great stuff happening here on Cannabis Radio. Make sure you check out Tommy Chong Podcast, Burning Issues with Dr. Mitch, Hemp Present with Vivian McPeak. Dr. Dina's got a 2-part interview with Whoopi Goldberg you can check out. That's up online. All sorts of good stuff. I'm going to be here in beautiful legal Potland, Oregon for a while, at least through the rest of July, it's looking. Come August, though, it looks like I've got a few different gigs lining up. August 5th and 6th, the first weekend in August, whatever those days are, it looks like I will be in San Diego, California, for the Southern California Cannabis Expo, whatever they're going to call it. It's the same people that put on the expo that I attended in Phoenix and the one I attended in Fort Worth, so kind of got some ins with those people, and I'll make my way to San Diego. So if we got any listeners down there in the extreme southern end of California, would love to meet up with you. And there's a chance, still crossing my fingers, that I'll get a sit-down interview with Whoopi Goldberg at that event. So looking forward to a trip to San Diego. Then August 13th and 14th, the second weekend, I think I've got another, what's the gig there? I know the Portland has the Indo Expo. There is the Oregon Cannabis Growers Fair that we talked about in Hour 1. But I will actually be booked at the Idaho Hemp Fest. Yes, the Indo Expo in Portland is the 6th and 7th. And then the Idaho Hemp Fest is Saturday, August 13th. So I'll make my way back into the most restrictive marijuana state in the West. That's right, Idaho. And we'll be a part of the Idaho Hemp Fest on August 13th. The following weekend, of course, third weekend of August, as always, the Seattle Hemp Fest. And this is the 25th anniversary Seattle Hemp Fest. So I'm really looking forward to that. I was checking out the Hemp Fest YouTube channel, and they have uploaded all of their stage video from the entire 2015 Seattle Hemp Fest. So I'm going to pick through that and try to find out where my speeches are and maybe send those out on my social media links. All right, coming up here in this Hour 2, we've got time for a radical rant that I pushed in from Hour 1. We're going to talk a little bit about my latest column for the Oregon Cannabis Connection on tolerating public drug use buildings. Then in the second half of Hour 2 today, we've got more from the Cannabis Hemp Expo. Andrea Herman, her presentation on industrial hemp. And we'll hear from Tyler Stratford, who's an expert on seed-to-sale tracking mechanisms. So we'll hear all about that. Plus, we'll talk more about some of the stories that are going on this week and around the world in cannabis and in other politics. Right now, as I speak, there is a military coup going down in Turkey. The country of Turkey is falling apart, so we'll find out the latest on that, plus whatever's going on here in the world of marijuana. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show exclusively on CannabisRadio.com. Thanks for joining us. And don't forget my exclusive columns that you can find, brand new columns twice a week on hightimes.com. You'll find them under the heading Radical Rant, and they've got a new web design out there at hightimes.com. It's very nice web design that they've unleashed. So High Times columns every Tuesday and Friday. You can also find my writing in the Oregon Cannabis Connection newspaper, in marijuanapolitics.com, and coming soon to Cannabis Now magazine. Stay tuned. The Radical Rant is coming up next after we pay a few bills.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Forwarding the cause of legalization and research of the growing cannabis industry, one podcast at a time. The Cannabis Radio Network.
Play as Ted Growing, expelled botany sophomore and the biggest grower in town, only on Weed Firm Replanted. Available on the App Store and Google Play.
It's a lot of work being the biggest grower in town. Maintaining a room full of plants while dealing with a slew of eccentric customers? From a hardcore partier to the curious neighbor next door.
Is anybody home?
Help me expand my bud business by unlocking new strains, customizing my grow room, and completing challenges that you can't get enough of. Grow your empire so big you can see it from space. Low on funds? Don't worry. Weed Firm Replanted is free to download.
Download Weed Firm Replanted for free on the App Store and Google Play today. Get growing, Mr. Growing.
This is the Stoner Jesus Show podcast on CannabisRadio.com. And don't try to debate me on something. Motherfucker, I can't do many things well, but words are my shit.
The Stoner Jesus Show, live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Or find the Stoner Jesus Show podcast on demand at CannabisRadio.com and StonerJesus.net.
Peace, bitches.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
I said, on this program, what do they want? My grandchildren and the monster. Did I scare you?
Okay. Maybe you're high, too.
New beginner guitars and banjos are often constructed much better than ones built before your time. Why struggle? Get a new instrument or fix the old one. The trusted professionals at the Fingerboard Extension will evaluate your instrument for free. Repairs are priced for people who work for a living. Stop by the Fingerboard Extension downtown Corvallis at 120 Northwest 2nd Street today, or check out its inventory on the web at fingerboardextension.com.
We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number one.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
That marijuana, pot, grass, whatever you want to call it, is probably the most dangerous drug.
Some think there won't be room for them in jail. We'll make room.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it and didn't inhale.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
Radical Rant.
I was recently in Vancouver, British Columbia, as the guests of Mark Emery and Dana Larson, two of Canada's top cannabis activists. While I was there, I got to go to the Cannabis Culture store on West Hastings Street. The store is on the first floor. Then up a stairway, there are two smoking lounges on the second and third floor. Keep in mind, marijuana isn't legal yet in Canada. They do have a medical marijuana program, but as far as my experience in Vancouver went, marijuana might as well be legal. Dispensaries and pot lounges there are accepting of anybody who shows an ID proving they are 19 years of age or older. So as I enjoyed some delicious flavor of BC Bud with the Prince of Pot inside a building downtown in a major metropolis, I just shook my head thinking about how touchy a subject pot lounges are in the United States. The frustrating part about the pot lounge issue is the same frustration we have with marijuana policy in general. Not only is marijuana safer than alcohol generally, but pot lounges are far safer than brew pubs specifically. In one of my previous incarnations, I was a professional bar band musician. Before that, I was the son of a professional bar band musician. So the first 3 decades of my life, I spent a lot of weekends in alcohol bars. In that time, I've seen every kind of fight, all the way up to the full-scale, chairs-flying barroom brawl. I've seen sexual assaults. I've seen stumbling and puking. I've seen drunk driving fatalities. I've had to clear out of bars when someone either unleashed some pepper spray or one time pulled a gun. So it's maddening because here's a public that accepts without question the existence of multiple buildings in town for the express purpose of taking highly impairing, terribly addictive drugs. These drugs are so ingrained, these drug buildings, I should say, are so ingrained as part of everyday life that there are even sitcoms on TV about the wacky antics of the druggies congregating where everybody knows their name. Not only are these drug buildings places where the sole activity, the sole purpose is taking drugs, not only do we get those, but we're so heavily advertised to about taking these drugs at these drug buildings for fun. I mean, when it's drug time, there's no slowing down because taking drugs makes you the most interesting man in the world, right? And it's not just the drug buildings. We have other buildings for eating, for listening to concerts, for watching sporting events, for taking in a movie. And we're encouraged to take drugs in these buildings too. We'll even have food servers suggesting which kind of drug goes best with a particular meal. And at all of these buildings that promote the use of drugs, there are parking lots. We fully trust adults to drive their cars to buildings where they are encouraged to consume impairing drugs. We then trust them to judge their own drug impairment accurately enough to decide whether to get back in their cars and drive home. Even though we know from decades of data that there will be tens of thousands of deaths resulting from this trust, including some people who have never even consumed the drug. So, if we can accept tens of thousands of bars and pubs and taverns and nightclubs and restaurants and concert halls and sporting arenas and movie theaters selling alcohol, the most dangerous drug in our society, why then are we moving so slowly on just a few lounges where the only drug allowed is the safest one in our society? Cannabis. It's not the secondhand smoke issue. Don't even tell me that you're worried about the secondhand smoke from cannabis. First-hand cannabis smoke hasn't even been shown to cause long-term damage to the pulmonary system. First-hand cannabis smokers aren't getting COPD or emphysema or lung cancer. Hell, scientists have just barely recently been able to get a positive drug test out of someone for secondhand cannabis smoke. And to get that result, they had to put this person in an unventilated 7-foot box with the smoke equivalent of dozens of tokers. And you want to try to convince me that we need to protect the servers and the restaurant workers and the bartenders from the damage of secondhand cannabis smoke? Hell, in Oregon, they made it bad enough that they're worried about the damages of secondhand cannabis vapor. Don't give me that. Don't tell me it's a secondhand smoke issue, especially when in this state, they make a specific exception for cigar bars and tobacco shops. So long as they employ adequate ventilation, these places can enjoy cannabis smoke. I'm sorry, tobacco smoke. They can enjoy tobacco smoke in these places so long as they have adequate ventilation, thanks to an exemption in the Clean Air Act. So don't give me the secondhand smoke issue, and don't tell me it's the driving issue. Stoned drivers are nothing like drunk drivers. Scientists have recently found that after you correct for age and gender, drivers with THC in their blood are no more likely to crash than sober drivers. There's no reason to fear a stoned driver if we're still going to allow drinkers to drive away from bar parking lots. Anytime someone wants to try to convince me they're worried about the stoned driving menace, I always wonder if they would support my initiative to require breathalyzer valet parking at all bars. Think about it. You show up at the bar, you pull your car into the parking lot, or you pull your car up, there's a valet there, you give him your keys, he gives you a ticket, he drives off, parks your car. When you want to leave the bar, you hand that ticket to the valet and he hands you a handheld breathalyzer. If you can't blow below 0.08 on that, you don't get your keys back. You don't get your car back. Why is that not a requirement at every bar in America? Why do we allow bars to have parking lots? Now, I know some people would say, well, folks would get around that. They'd park down the street and then walk to the bar, etc. Yeah, I'm sure. There's all sorts of ways they could get around it, but they'd have to make that extra effort to do so. So yeah, don't tell me it's a worry about the stone mayhem on the freeways as to why we can't have a pot lounge. For one, if you knew all those people were at the pot lounge, you'd know where the stone drivers are. You could keep a better eye on them. As it is now, with no place to smoke, people are going to their friend's place or people are finding places to hide, and you don't know where anyone's smoking. No, it has nothing to do with secondhand smoke. It has nothing to do with driving. When you get to the root of it, it's a canna bigotry issue. They just don't like our kind. See, for many people, legalizing pot wasn't about accepting pot. It was about rejecting prohibition. Many of these people, in fact, probably most of these people that voted for legalization, still think of tokers as lazy, shiftless, amoral addicts. For them, legalizing wasn't about, the healing of the nations and cannabis cures cancer. For them, legalization was about locking you up is a waste of time. Now go back home, shut your drapes, and smoke your bong. For a lot of people, they were just tired of us. Just tired of hearing about the issue, tired of the waste in the issue. But they're not yet ready to embrace the issue. They're not ready to embrace us as equals, to accept us as on par with alcohol drinkers. Because legalizing the pot lounge means that they will have tacitly accepted us on par with the alcohol drinkers. Pot smoking then goes from the dirty habit we tolerate to the social choice we accept. If there's a pot lounge, they're going to worry that the Smoke in the Open outdoor pot festival is next. And then after that, pot starts showing up in the TV ads. They're worried that marijuana then becomes as ubiquitous as alcohol, and they'll have to smell pot smoke wherever they go. Well, for those people, I don't think they're going to like the future. Because the evidence is in, and the younger generations are increasingly on our side in understanding that marijuana is safer than alcohol, and it's a perfectly valid choice for a person to use recreationally if we are a society that tolerates alcohol use. There's no reason and nobody's business whether or not we are using marijuana. And as the future goes on and more people recognize this, we will see pot lounges. We will see marijuana advertisement. We will see open air marijuana festivals. And trying to bury your head in the sand and trying to stop pot lounges at this point is not going to stop that from happening. You're only delaying the inevitable. Let's do the right thing, legalize it, and equalize it.
Are you sure this is legal? I don't know. It's fun though, isn't it?
All All right, folks. Well, it's 4:20 here in the Pacific time zone, and because of our extended behind the headlines earlier today, it's our first chance to actually take a safety break. We're going to have to be doubly safe. However safe you usually are at 4:20, it's Friday. I encourage you to be double safe. We're back with more right after this.
Next to THC and CBD, you can now add CBR to your cannabis vernacular. CBR as in cannabisradio.com.
Great websites today need expert web design and development and need to be e-commerce ready and mobile friendly. But building a marketable and profitable website can be an uphill climb. Ready to make your new website or replace your existing website? Think Orange as the new way to get in the black. Orange Hill Development works with Fortune 500 companies and offer the same top quality development service at a fraction of what other providers charge. Brands like Absolute, Carlsberg, and Nestea trust Orange Hill Development. Find out why you should trust your website with Orange Hill. Contact Orange Hill for a consultation today at orangehilldevelopment.com.
NORMAL stands for Responsible Adult Cannabis Use. If cannabis use is causing problems in your life, consider taking a break or seeking medical assistance. Consider ceasing cannabis use if you have a family history of mental illness. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery while impaired by cannabis use. Cannabis use is not without risks, even though the risks are far less than those posed by legal drugs.
Get the latest updates on The Russ Belville Show by following Radical Russ on Twitter and liking The Russ Belville Show on Facebook.
Coming soon to a city near you, Cannabis Finance Boot Camp. Get all your cannabis accounting, legal, and compliance questions answered by their knowledgeable panel of industry experts who want to help your cannabis business boom. Whether you're a grower, dispensary operator, or a newcomer to the field, your cannabis business needs Cannabis Finance Boot Camp. For information on upcoming events, visit cannabisfinancebootcamp.com.
Most of us pirates, we on vacation to North Dakota, you know, because they've got a town called Argusville. Arr. What are you smoking there, boy? This is Dan Michaels from danmichaelsaudio.com, and you're listening to Radical Russ on cannabisradio.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We got more audio for you from the Cannabis Hemp Expo in Vancouver, British Columbia. And one of my favorite experts presented there. Her name's Andrea Herman, and she is probably the leading expert in the world on industrial hemp. We're going to hear a little bit from her in this segment that was recorded this weekend in Vancouver, BC. Enjoy.
All right. Well, welcome, everybody. Thank you. My name is Andrea Herman, and I'm based in Manitoba. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm originally from Joplin, Missouri. So I'm a proud immigrant and now Canadian citizen. So thank you all for facilitating my hemp dreams to come true. So today I was asked to give a Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance report, and that's what I'm going to do. So what's the status of the hemp industry here in Canada? Our regulations were put in place in 1998 in March, and since that time, and essentially how that came around is the government here said with some interesting research findings and demand from industry, they looked at industrial hemp and decided to legalize it and then thus amend the regulations to facilitate the cultivation for 10 acres or more underneath a commercial license and less than that under a research license right here. So ever since then, Canada has really been the leader in the hemp industry, especially when it comes to the food sector. So, are we red hot yet? Well, we got a lot more work to do, that's for sure. So essentially, the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance's members consist of growers, researchers, seed breeders, processors, interested persons engaged in the hemp industry, and consumers, of course, always focused on growth and development of the hemp industry. And essentially, the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance came around from looking at what was needed on the federal level here in Canada and how could we have a unified voice as we move forward doing this type of association work. So here's just some of the initiatives that are going on right now. We're a working board. I'm not paid by the CHTA. I hold 3 different memberships with them, as I feel it's important from each of my entities to have an active role in what's going on and representing the industry. Part of that is national variety research development. What varieties are going to work well in southern Ontario might not work so well in northern Manitoba or northern Alberta. So really working with the plant breeders to highlight their varieties across the Canadian research framework so that farmers know at the end of the day what they're going to put in is going to be right for their end product that they're looking for. Also looking at the hog and poultry feeding trials. This is going to be very important as we move forward looking at getting essential fatty acid foods, highly digestible proteins, not only into our human bodies, but into the animals that we're eating. Trust me, we never thought in the beginning that we would be eating hemp foods before we had hemp fiber here. And it's really difficult to get something proved as a livestock animal feed. So this has been a major initiative, and this started years ago with some basic protein digestibility research projects. And those were some really happy rats. In addition, this year we have produced the Hemp Production E-Guide. This is really looking at the farming agricultural landscape and how do we prepare our farmers to really understand industrial hemp. And this is something that is cultivation practices. And of course we know as we look at the development of using hemp or 0.3% or less THC types of cannabis in agriculture, that agricultural landscape has changed. So we know this will need to be updated as these types of female-only production of hemp starts coming into the marketplace. Well, Health Canada. Well, thankfully we have a Health Canada here. If I looked at, not that we don't have our own problems within it, but thankfully to have one voice so that no matter if I'm operating in Manitoba, British Columbia, Nova Scotia, or the Northern Territories, that we're all functioning under the same regulations and we all have the same power of one voice, especially coming from the CHTA. Trust me, when I email Health Canada, they email me back because they don't want to hear from me again, which is always nice. Quick replies, and then I can share that information. And then talking about promotion and then a research agency. So how can the CHTA act in a role of promotion on the federal level, local level for our members, of course, and then research agencies across Canada to bring them together to the table to facilitate the work that we've all got to do and that we have a common goal to get the information out of it. Of course, liaisoning with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. Of course, if we look at how the principal drivers have been here talking about food production, we fall under Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. Kinda. We're not classified technically as a grain here, so that there are funding opportunities that we can't access because of some of the ways that hemp has not yet been accepted by Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, but I can say they have been super champions for us, and we've had many champions from within government come forward, and one of those will be on our panel later on. In addition, our annual conference, which this will be in Saskatoon, so please join us in Saskatoon in November and see what's really going on. And I often say as a consultant, if somebody says they want to know something about industrial hemp, now if you want to be in fiber, I'm going to tell you, get over to Europe and go there. But if you're talking about grain production and food, I often say a lot of bang for your buck is coming to the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance. We're really engaged in wanting to share and steward not only what's going on here, but international relationships and strategic alliance amongst our members to facilitate this global revolution that we all belong in. And of course, long-term international strategy. How does Canada position itself now with the changing dynamics in the cannabis industry? And how can we make sure that our farmers are also increasing their farm gate and the capacity to facilitate the cultivation in the new changing face of hemp? And minor use approval processes. Well, maybe not my favorite topic, because it's talking about chemical application and pesticides and herbicides. But this is also something that I've seen some of the research come forward from this work and saying, maybe we don't really need it if we do some pre-agronomic practices. So sometimes these kind of trials proves another point about how maybe in cultivation we don't need some of these herbicides, but it's also looking at how do we use bioinsecticides, for instance, in certified organic production or transition production. Well, I won't go too much into the hemp history, as we probably all get a little bit of this. And these are some general slides provided. So, of course, the long history in the U.S., You know, we all know about criminality and the stereotypes that are going behind. But what's really important is looking at what's going on and what maybe, you know, kind of a hemp renaissance and how we're bringing this back and looking at the overall acreage expanding across Canada. And those principally are in about 5 provinces. So the Prairie provinces and in Quebec and some in Ontario. So the area that we're cultivating in is still really bound to the prairies particularly. And, you know, we're increasing evidence in both acres and yields. I mean, the acres are driven by marketplace. If you look at what's going on the global market, since we are the leaders in hemp food production, our products are shipping all around the globe. So in addition, talking about the exports, well, right here in 2015, you know, over $100 million have been exported out of. And these statistics only include orders that cross over the U.S. border that are more than $2,000. So anybody ordering anything less than that, that's not becoming part of these statistics. So they're actually quite skewed if you look at the grander scheme of things that are moving out of Canada. So we've had really strong growth as it comes to market demand. So of course, hemp food processing in Canada, we're going to have one of our processors up here in a little bit, but this is something that has really been driven. Of course, we're principally on the food side. As we look at the fiber side, there's a lot of opportunity as we start to develop the fiber industry. There are limitations as it comes to transport, for instance. How economical is it to move all of these bales? And this is why we're going to need multiple processing facilities across the prairies. And trust me, since 1998, are you kidding? When I came here in 2001, we always thought, wow, we still don't have a commercial scale fiber decortication facility in Canada sitting in the prairies when we have grandfather bales out there sitting, and you pull back the top 3 inches of these bales in that fiber and they're still really usable. So how do we facilitate that? I mean, come on, let's build a fiber processing facility, because right now we're shipping fiber from Europe. Thank you, our European colleagues, for helping facilitate it. But when we have the raw material right here and the machinery exists, you know, just got to come with a coin, if you know what I mean. So of course, hemp is a food. We're going to have some discussion with that with Charles in just a little bit. Of course, looking at that essential fatty acid profile, looking at the vitamins and minerals, and probably everybody in here eats hemp foods. And if you don't, please go out and incorporate them into your diet. And of course, it's just good food. And I always say, if it's good, you know, if it's good food, hemp is good in it, on it, or with it. And of course, looking at hemp as a fiber material. Well, so many things are coming out through research as we look at the development of the fiber industry, and really being led by our European colleagues, and that can definitely spill over here. But once again, what's the missing link? Fiber decortication. Well, hemp is a medicine. So many other people here that have been on this stage can really speak to this, but just know that this is a mission from the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance to embrace what hemp looks like as a medicine, therapeutic, however you want to say, alternative use, adult use, chosen use, coming off of industrial hemp. And how can we work with Health Canada and our producers to make the change that we need so that we can get total crop utilization? Because underneath our current regulation framework, we're not allowed to work with the flowering parts or the leaves, or technically the green parts of the plant. And there's a huge opportunity being missed from us not being able to collect that material and make products that are already out on the market. So just want to thank everybody for, you know, what you're doing and pushing the envelope, which adds legitimacy so that we can really say that somebody containing the types of products that are coming off industrial hemp in other countries don't make you sick. And at the end of the day, that's what we want to know is this a food-safe product? Is this a product that's not going to make people sick from consuming it? So all the people pushing the limits is also helping us in the hemp industry. So looking at an outlook, talking about the production guide, looking at, transition, limited contracts. So this year we actually saw a decrease in the contracts. Why? Because our varieties are yielding better and we had grain sitting in the bin. So that's really talking about more development of the market so that we can keep those contracts really flowing. Also, this is a rotation crop, so it doesn't fit in every single year into every rotation. So maybe you're at a farmer's field every couple of years, or maybe they've got it in every couple of years, and they're growing other crops. I mean, especially as we start talking about large-scale agriculture, where you're coming in with big combines, and you need grain bins and proper storage so that the food product at the end of the day isn't rotten. Well, how does the potential legalization of marijuana impact industrial hemp and our regulations that we now have? So this year, we know Health Canada came forward with some of the license applications in the early beginning and said, oh, you have to file this application that was almost in conjunction with the medical marijuana program research application. Thankfully, they reneged on that and gave us our old application back, but there's definitely work to be done there. And the expansion in the U.S., and what does that look like for our Canadian processors? What joint ventures? How can the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance and how can our seed breeders actually also help steward that? And we're already seeing that. Almost all of the breeding programs in Canada, and there's like maybe 6 or 8 of them, have all provided genetics to other places around the world to help facilitate cultivation. And we were facilitated by those first Ukrainian varieties coming here. So it's our turn to actually pay it back to other places that are now cultivating. Well, will we get to 1 million acres here in Canada? Will we have $1 billion in exports? Potentially so. How about grass certification? Generally recognized as safe. This is in the U.S. and how does not having that hold us back? And how much money does it take us to get something like grass? If you look at all the money that was sunk into flax and now flax is on the grass status, how do we get that kind of coin to drive the research that we need to get something like grass so that we can further drive our marketplace? Is this a sole responsibility of Canada? No, this is a U.S. regulation. So working with our colleagues in the U.S. to drive that. How do we get it not the hemp sunrise bar, just the sunrise bar, right? And change that philosophy on the market of, a few drops of hemp seed oil in something and it's just a commonplace. High-tech applications, graphene, looking at all the composites, looking at the 3D printing that's going on, and how do we help facilitate that? How do we help push breeding programs so that we can increase yields and educate our farmers so that they understand how to better farm this crop, store this crop, and how do we work on a grading system that makes us all unified so that no matter where you're purchasing this from, and this is one of the things from the CHTA we have is a food safety committee right now, looking around foods and how do we streamline things so no matter which one of our quality members you're purchasing from, they recognize these same types of standards for quality and food safety. Dual cropping, maybe triple cropping actually, right? As we look at the changing dynamics. In addition, is this the Cinderella 2.0 of the rapeseed canola? Well, boy, what we can do that rapeseed and canola cannot, I think we're, definitely keeping that pumpkin buggy going for a while. So, of course, thank you, everybody. And if you're interested, please reach out to us at hemptrade.ca. Talk to Kim Schluckley. Your membership really is important. Come to our conference in November in Saskatoon, and we look forward to you. And we won't do the second one. Okay, thank you so much. My name's Andrea Herman.
The great Andrea Herman speaking for the Canadian Hemp Trade Alliance and giving us a rundown of what's going on in industrial hemp throughout the country of Canada, North America, and the world. You can find more information about hemp from the Hemp Industries Association, thehia.org. Also check out votehemp.com. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, our final bit of audio from the Cannabis Hemp Expo in Vancouver, British Columbia, Tyler Stratford talking about seed-to-sale tracking. I'm Radical Russ, live from beautiful legal Portland, Oregon. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you join us next week. We got another week of great shows every weekday, 3 p.m. Pacific time.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Keep your cannabis cravings under control. Feed your mind with CannabisRadio.com.
Cash?
Sorry.
I don't carry around cash, and I don't want to use the ATM and pay surcharges.
You don't need to carry cash. Haven't you heard about PayQuick?
Okay, tell me about PayQuick.
It's the safe and easy way to pay. It works just like your debit card to securely pay for your purchase, and it gives you rewards points every time you use it.
Nice.
Pay Quick, the safe and easy way to pay. PayQuick.com.
Tommy Chong Show on Cannabis Radio. You know, about this podcast, what I really want to do from now on is to solve world problems. I feel like my job is to calm everybody down and focus on how we can save this planet.
The Tommy Chong Podcast, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome to my world.
You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
Christian convictions are under attack as never before.
Okay. Maybe you're high, too.
Get.buzz. .buzz is the internet platform that fuels community interest, excitement, and new experiences. .buzz is the premier online destination for internet users seeking the latest news on a variety of topics. .buzz appeals to groups active in blogging, communications, journalism, advertising, and marketing. .buzz offers registrants a stronger alternative to the shrinking namespace of existing top-level domain names, such as .com, .net, and .org. Get your name now at get.buzz.
And blue blasten Gergen, Pfaffen der Blasten, Schnurb Norben. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Welcome back, everybody. It's been a great week here on Cannabis Radio. Thanks for joining us and enjoying all of this coverage from Vancouver, British Columbia. I look forward to making it back there in October for the International Cannabis Business Conference. Our final bit of audio comes to us from Tyler Stratford, who's an expert on the dispensary and production side of cannabis in Canada. He's going to talk a little bit about seed-to-sale tracking.
Next, we have seed-to-sale traceability, technology, and compliance with MJ Freeway. Now, the CEO, Jessica Belinsky, was not able to join us today, but we would like to welcome Tyler Stratford. Tyler is the operations consultant for MJ Freeway. Tyler has over 5 years of experience in the cannabis industry, including cultivation management and dispensary operations. Tyler now assists clients with MJ Freeway Business Solutions and offers his expertise in cannabis business and application support and workflow analysis. Let's welcome Tyler.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Everybody hear me okay? Awesome, great. Well, like she said, my background, of course, in the cannabis industry, I've been in it for about 5 years. About in 2011, I started as a dispensary director, a compliance officer for some Colorado-based medical dispensaries, as well as the medical grows. I then transitioned to being a dispensary director and compliance officer for some recreational dispensaries as well. Like she said, since I've been with MJ Freeway for about 2 years, I've been doing operations consulting from basically floor to ceiling. Anything you could need or understand in any part of this industry, we absolutely help you get down the right track. Okay. So, seed-to-sale technology and compliance. As it pertains to you guys up here in Canada, not us down in the States, we have a lot of different areas we need to focus on. Obviously, cultivation, harvest, processing, distribution, inventory, and sales. There's parts throughout all of these different processes where we need to have some tracking and traceability, obviously from seed to sale. That's what this process is. And we also need, not just for compliance sake, but we use this technology to help us be better as operators in any part of this industry. When we're talking about cultivation, this pertains to, as far as compliance goes, we need to know what we're applying to our plants, when we're applying them, okay? Where in our cultivation are these plants? What genetics do they come from? And that's just while the plant's alive. Once we harvest the plant, we need to know different information about it. So throughout this harvesting process, we need to worry about product and inventory diversion. not just our 30% or 60% moisture loss, getting it down to what we think is the best moisture percentage for our product, but where is everything disappearing to? Where's all of our trash, our byproduct going, okay? Are we using that for extraction? And the technology that MJ Freeway can provide as far as barcoding, batching, all of these things within your system can help you get some visibility into that. Now when we talk about processing, not just extractions and infusions, but of course any kind of packaging, pre-packaging, things like that, we want to know where is our product along the chain of this process. We need to know where it came from, so getting a good chain of custody as to what plants this was grown, what plants were grouped together in this growth cycle and this harvest cycle, so that in the future, if there's any contamination problems, any pesticide issues, then we can track via chain of custody where all this ended up, okay? Distribution. Wholesale distribution is mostly what we're talking about here, but of course we want to make sure that in every side of our distribution that things are labeled compliantly. At this point, that's kind of opt-in at this point up here, right? But we want to know where things are going. We want to have an easy way to see transparently exactly what our order is, inventory manifest, maybe even routes of travel and GPS tracking for whoever's delivering our products. These are ways technology can help our distribution. With regards to inventory tracking, everybody knows that as we go to a grocery store and things are barcoded, we can just scan them across. That allows people to spend a lot more time with customers, patients, for instance. So we really want to simplify the inventory process, not only for management and diversion control, but also for our profitability, so we can see that it ends up exactly in the hands of the people it's supposed to end up in. And of course, sales. Eventually, when regulations kick in, we'll need to know taxes that are applied to each of the products that we're selling, who we're selling to, that they have a valid license or ID or are at least of age. And we need potentially software to help us track this. So hopefully we don't have to think about it. So we just become a easy dispensary. Now, those are all kind of the background of, yes, maybe we need to be compliant. And of course, the benefit there is that like Renee was saying, it costs a lot more to be uncompliant than it does to be compliant. So while there's an upfront cost for compliance, the consequences for not being compliant with regulations are far greater. So with regards to cultivation, we can have forecasts of what strains are going to produce our highest yields, as well as mortality rates of what strains are maybe not the best for us to take 50 clones of and then try and propagate all of those, right? As far as extraction goes and testing of that extraction, or any of our products rather, we can actually see terpene profiles, so we can decide what is this going to best be used for, what ailments is this going to be best treating, as well as cannabinoid profiles. So are they desiring a certain level of intoxication or pain relief or antispasmodic properties? That's entirely based on different terpenes and cannabinoid profiles in their test results. Of course, with regards to wholesale distribution, technology can just give us a really good insight as to exactly what we're selling, what our highest demand strains are, products. And then, of course, on the patient side of things, what's staying on our shelves the longest, okay? What products are moving the quickest? What products have the highest return, okay? And then when we're talking about actually selling to different patients, what are we selling them? You know, last week they came in and they really liked this strain. It helped them out with a lot of their insomnia or their pain. In what way? We can actually track what their order history is, where it came from, even what testing results corresponded with exactly what they consumed. We also can help save help save us some time with regards to revenue by not checking in patients that, for instance, are currently expired or not of age, etc. Now, when it comes to choosing a solution, because eventually we're going to need to comply with some regulations that are going to be in place up here, okay? Right now it's kind of an opt-in, self-regulating environment, but as operators here, we need to be able to set a precedent so that when federal regulation comes around and we're actually able to set a good example of the way it should be done, they can ask us. They can ask you guys as operators what the best practices are, what laws should we have in place, because you guys have been in operation to the best of your ability for a while now. Obviously, as regulations move forward here in Canada, and you guys are required to track and test and comply with a lot more regulations on every side of the seed to sale process, we're here to grow with you, okay? So with all the different regulatory environments in, as you know of in the States, there's 26 different states as well as a couple different territories, and they all have their own laws. A lot of different gray areas, like in California, you don't even have to have a license to grow cannabis in any way. In Michigan, you can have collective clubs that are basically limited to a certain size. And as you can see, people get rated on a regular basis. Okay, those are all the people that are definitely not using a seed to sale technology to help them track every part of their process. So as the regulations kick in up here, I encourage you to reach out to MJ Freeway Business Solutions for support in being compliant with all those regulations, as well as using our technology to help your business be better in any part of your operation. Thank you very much.
Great information on the seed to sale traceability systems going on in Canada under their programs. Been great this week learning about what's going on in Canada and seeing how that country is dealing not only with medical marijuana, but with the impending marijuana legalization that has been promised by the Liberal Party and Justin Trudeau, their new Prime Minister. We'll keep you in touch with what's going on in Canada, and if you've got any Canada news for us, make sure to send it my way. I'm radicalruss@gmail.com, and I answer all my emails. So if you've got a news story or an interview guest idea or a topic you'd like us to cover, please send it in, radicalruss@gmail.com. We'll be back to wrap things up right after this.
This is the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
From dabs to chibas, sativas to indicas, we roll out a whole concentrate of fresh new content every week. It's like going from the greenhouse to the dispensary. CannabisRadio.com.
The cannabis industry is growing, business is booming, and as new opportunities arise in newly legalized states, each market is getting more competitive. Today, it takes more than just being a good grower. Do you have the resources to market and handle this ever-changing business landscape? Let Canna Management Corporation help you grow your canna business with our vast resources and experience to make your business a fully functional service company. Financial management, HR, sales, marketing, efficiency, and more. CMC has the experience and the expertise to improve your business and help you better meet the demands of your clients and customers. Call Canna Management Corporation and let our team get you ready to grow. 415-269-8015. That's 415-269-8015. Or visit canna-management.com.
NORMAL stands for Responsible Adult Cannabis Use. If cannabis use is causing problems in your life, consider taking a break or seeking medical assistance. Consider ceasing cannabis use if you have a family history of mental illness. Don't drive or operate heavy machinery while impaired by cannabis use. Cannabis use is not without risks, even though the risks may be far less than those posed by legal drugs. You're not high. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on CannabisRadio.com.
I do not like them, Sam. I do not like green eggs and ham.
Okay, maybe you're high, too.
With over 6 years of experience in the industry, New Era CPAs is one of the nation's leading cannabis accounting firms, helping hundreds of growers, dispensaries, and ancillary companies with their tax, legal, and business strategies. New Era CPAs offices cover the West Coast from Seattle to San Diego, and their skilled team is always available to help you take your business to the next level. Visit neweracpas.com for more info and set up a consultation. Welcome to the New Era.
Remember, friends, there's more to life than marijuana. I just can't remember what it is. Why'd I come in here? You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation, only on CannabisRadio.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. 5 minutes to 5 here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. And normally at this time, I'd be encouraging you to stay tuned for the Stoner Jesus show coming up live. But Stoner Jesus is off tonight, so there is no Stoner Jesus. We'll be back next week with more great shows here from beautiful legal Potland, Oregon. We're speaking with Dr. Mitch Earlywine on Monday in our Cannabis Q&A segment. So if you've got any questions about marijuana use, history, culture, science, health, anything, you can send them to us through our chat room, and we'll get them to Dr. Mitch and ask those questions live on the air. Also, next week on Wednesday, we've got our Hemp Day Hump Day update. We'll be reaching out to Doug Fine, the best-selling author of Hemp Bound and Too High to Fail, get his latest updates on what's going on with the hemp planting season. And we will have plenty more with respect to all of the news of the day. And speaking of that, we got a quick update on just to get you caught up on Marijuana Election Night 2016. This will be my fourth. Let's see, I did it in 2010, 2012, 2014, 2015. So yes, this will be my fifth broadcast of live marijuana election returns on live stream. And right now, it looks like we've already got 7 states that will be voting. 7 states to cover. It'll be the biggest election night coverage I've ever had. 7 states that'll likely become 9. And the rundown is this. For marijuana legalization, California, Nevada, Massachusetts, and Maine have all made the ballot. We just got Massachusetts this week on Tuesday. The Secretary of State there announced that they had made the ballot. So California, Nevada, Massachusetts, and Maine. Arizona has turned in enough signatures. They're still being validated. They're likely to be valid. So we will have 5 states in America voting on marijuana legalization. And then for medical, Florida, Arkansas, and this week, Montana made the ballot for medical marijuana. And you're thinking, wait, Montana is already a medical marijuana state. That's true. This vote is to restore their medical marijuana to having dispensaries and actually being a functional program for most patients. So it's a medical marijuana restoration. So 3 states with medical, Florida, Arkansas, and Montana. And then Missouri has turned in their signatures. They're likely to have enough signatures as well. So we'll have 4 states with medical coverage. We could have a possible 9 states to cover on marijuana election night, and then maybe a 10th. There could be a Hail Mary pass for the state of Michigan. We'll see how that works out. And North Dakota is a possibility for medical marijuana. That's all the time we got for today. Thanks for joining us. Talk to you next week. Until that time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth.